So Friedrich Nietzsche had set up the Superman that was going to run its course and human history was going towards the Uberman. As we get closer and closer to probably the pinnacle of history, what's going to happen is there going to be a showdown between the Uberman versus Jesus Christ. All right, let's dive into this. I want to look at this, and it's fitting because the movie Superman was just released today. So you should go check that out. But I want to actually take a look at a conference that kind of podcast sit down that Timothy Alberino had with Joe Allen, and they discussed transhumanism and a lot of different things. But I want to first take a look at this clip by Timothy Alberino, and he discusses that the goal of Nietzsche and what he kind of set front and center was evolution was one thing and Darwinism was one thing, but Friedrich Nietzsche, he saw that how meaningless and pointless that is, and it leads to nothingness. And he was the one who kind of postulated that we need to have directed course of action to draw the human species to a goal, that this superhuman being is what we should be going towards, and that humans actually are just a bridge. They're not the final destination, and we need to get somewhere. But let's actually take a look at what Timothy Alberino said is pretty eye-popping.
He was beginning to craft a vision, a destination, that now evolution in his mind had a destination. And Nietzsche critiqued, he believed in the theory of evolution, but he wasn't a Darwinist. Because the theory of evolution by natural selection is blind, it's purposeless, it's random. But Nietzsche saw purpose in evolution, and he believed that the very purpose of human evolution was to bring forth the Ubermensch, the Superman, the Overman on planet Earth. That was the drive, the impetus of evolution. And that's really what's behind all of this, as I said before, to bring forth the God-man, to bring forth the Ubermensch, the Overman on planet Earth.
Okay, so Friedrich Nietzsche, there's a lot there. He was a 19th century philosopher. If you've read anything about philosophy, you've definitely run across this guy. And I think he was the one that had the best realization of what his ideology and worldview meant. He was real about it. He wasn't going to just put it on the back burner. Oh, let's just go through regular day, but let's get to the heart of the issue. If everything is just nihilism and nothing means anything, then nothing means anything. There's no point to anything. So I think it was maybe the desire within him that we got to not just go with whatever comes our way, but we need to actually make change. We need to do something about it. We need to fight to the death to make something greater than just this pointless universe has to offer. But this sets us up against the worldview of Christianity, because Christianity says there is a purpose. There is meaning to life. We aren't just here. We aren't just evolved species. We aren't just cosmic accidents, but rather God is directing everything. And it's the difference between us putting ourselves in the driver's seat as opposed to knowing God's the one in the driver's seat. But in this conference, they talked about a number of different things, and they also went on to discussing the topic of what CERN, if you've heard of them, what they are doing in this world, and the God particle and all that. It was pretty cool. All right, so this is where they get into Joe Allen. He brings up the point that what people at CERN are doing, they might not understand that they're doing something very religious, and guiding the God particle and trying to create something out of nothing and trying to get back to the singularity. They're actually maybe doing something more religious than they might not know they're doing.
These people don't necessarily have a self-conscious sense that what they're doing is religious. Some do, many don't, but what they are doing is fundamentally religious. That despair you're talking about, the evolutionary or atheistic point of view, it's crushing. The big zero is the most depressing idea anyone could ever have, that everything that we're doing right now ends in zero, in nothing. You may have the most amazing, you may be Alexander the Great, you may be Elon Musk, but in 200 years, your consciousness will be zero. It will be as if you never existed. Maybe you take comfort in the continuation of your legacy. In 1 billion years, sun explodes, blah, 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 blah. zero. Let's say you've got probes going out into space that have your upload and you're spreading it across the entire universe. Well, you still have, at least according to the kind of scientific models, either a dissolution into a flat, almost 0 Kelvin, everything turns to mush as the Big Bang just, or you have the big crunch when everything becomes again a singularity and you're back to zero, nothing.
Okay, so those are the options, and I think this almost becomes the pie in the sky for the atheist. That this is you know that there's nothing, you're heading towards nothing, so we can just live how we want, and that's the way we can pacify the conscience that we have, or that when we deep down know that God has set eternity in our hearts. We know that we're going to live past death. We realize that. I think everybody fundamentally understands that. We just try to suppress it. We want to believe that our actions don't have, we're not going to be judged about them, and I think that's the only way that we can kind of have peace in that sense. Because what the story of Christ shows us is that there is a point to everything. It's not just you're getting up and every day you're just living for nothing, but rather you are living ultimately either for God or not for God, and it's a stark contrast. But I think that a lot of times atheists and I myself was an atheist. I myself did not believe in God at one point, for most of my life, I didn't believe in God. But it's just being confronted with the reality where we deep down know that there is something out there. We know there's something out there, and we have this this fire to be religious, and we're going to guide this religion that's in our heart towards something. We're fundamentally religious. Everybody is. And Nietzsche, he was religious, and he wanted to turn it towards, the Superman. Whereas the real Superman is Jesus Christ. He's the true Superman. And he's the one that will ultimately be proven right and ultimately will slay the dragon, slay the devil, slay, the false prophet, the Antichrist, and all that with the breath of his mouth. But it seems like everything is culminating into something, to some final versus showdown. And I think we're getting closer and closer by the day. But this whole conference was pretty intriguing, because when they delve into transhumanism, you can tell that it feels like that. So many things are happening in this world. So many things are just coalescing into the God-man of us trying to create something. We're going towards that. You can feel it in the air. All right. We'll leave it at that. So if you've enjoyed this video, hit this video over here, and I'll see you on the other side.